The sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the vast Kansas prairie in hues of gold and amber as Katherine Clarke's wedding dress caught on a patch of wild brambles, the final insult in what had become the worst day of her life. Blood trickled down her ankle where the thorns had scratched her, mingling with the dust that clung to her once pristine white gown. She had been walking for hours, her delicate satin shoes long since ruined, her feet now raw and blistered as she stumbled across the uneven terrain. It was 1873, and Catherine Kate, to those who knew her well, had never imagined she would be a runaway bride. The wedding had been arranged months ago, her father eager to secure her future with Edgar Thornton, a banker from St. Louis who was nearly 30 years her senior. Kate had reluctantly agreed, seeing no other option as her family's ranch faced foreclosure. But when the moment came to say her vows, she found herself unable to speak the words that would condemn her to a loveless marriage. She had fled the church in Oak Ridge, hitching a ride on a farmer's wagon for several miles before continuing on foot. Now, as dusk approached, she realized the foolishness of her impulsive decision. The nearest town was still miles away, and night in the prairie meant coyotes, possible bandits, and the unforgiving cold that descended after sunset. A sob escaped her throat as she tripped again, this time falling to her knees. Her hands sank into the dirt and she remained there, too exhausted to rise. The distant sound of hoofbeats barely registered in her mind until they grew louder, approaching rapidly from behind. "Miss, are you all right?" The deep voice carried across the prairie winds. Kate turned, squinting against the setting sun to make out the silhouette of a rider atop a chestnut stallion. As he drew closer, she could see he was young, perhaps in his mid-20s, with sun-bronzed skin and a jawline shadowed with stubble. His eyes were a piercing blue beneath the brim of his worn cowboy hat. "I'm fine," she lied, hastily wiping away her tears with dirt-stained hands. "Just resting a moment." The cowboy dismounted in one fluid motion, his spurs jingling as his boots hit the ground. "No offense, madam, but you don't look fine." He approached cautiously, as if afraid she might bolt like a skittish colt. "I'm Isaac Vance. I work at the R Ranch about 5 miles east of here." "Katherine Clarke," she replied, wincing as she tried to stand. Her feet screamed in protest and she faltered. In an instant, Isaac was at her side, strong hands gently steadying her. "You're hurt," he observed, concern etching his features as he noticed her bloodied feet and torn dress. "What happened? Where are your shoes?" "They fell apart miles back," Kate admitted, suddenly feeling foolish. I was supposed to be married today," understanding dawned in Isaac's eyes. "And you changed your mind," Kate nodded, unable to meet his gaze. "Well, you can't stay out here," Isaac said decisively. "Night's coming and it ain't safe for anyone, let alone a lady in a wedding dress." He glanced around at the open prairie. "My ranch is closest. Let me take you there. The owner's wife can help you get cleaned up and we can figure out what to do next." Before Kate could respond, Isaac bent down and scooped her into his arms as if she weighed nothing at all. She gasped, instinctively grabbing onto his shoulders. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her cheeks flushing. "You can't walk on those feet and we need to cross that field to get to my horse," Isaac explained, nodding toward the expanse of tall grass ahead. "Besides, that dress wasn't made for trudging through prairie grass. You just get more torn up." There was practical logic in his words, but Kate couldn't ignore the strange flutter in her chest as Isaac carried her effortlessly across the field. His arms were strong and secure around her, and she found herself noticing the clean scent of his cotton shirt beneath his leather vest, the steady beat of his heart against her side. "I can ride," Kate said as they reached his horse. "I grew up on a ranch, I know horses." Isaac smiled, revealing a dimple in his right cheek. "Never doubted it for a moment, Miss Clarke. You have that look about you." "What look?" she asked as he carefully set her on the saddle. "The look of someone who belongs out here," he replied, mounting behind her. "Someone who understands the land." As they rode toward the R Ranch, Kate felt an unexpected sense of safety in the arms of this stranger. The sun disappeared completely below the horizon, leaving them in the growing darkness of the prairie night, but for the first time since she had fled her wedding, Kate wasn't afraid. The Triple R Ranch appeared as a collection of golden lights in the darkness, a welcoming beacon after Kate's harrowing day. Several buildings were arranged around a central yard, with the main house, a sturdy two-story structure with a wide porch dominating the scene. Lamplight spilled from its windows and smoke curled from the chimney. "Mrs. Reynolds will help you," Isaac said as they approached. "She's been like a mother to most of us ranch hands since her husband hired us." "Won't they be suspicious, taking in a runaway bride?" Kate asked nervously. Isaac chuckled. "Mrs. Reynolds has helped folks in worse situations. Besides, this is the frontier. People understand that sometimes you have to make difficult choices to survive." They were greeted at the door by Martha Reynolds, a robust woman with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes. One look at Kate's bedraggled condition, and the woman ushered her inside without question, calling for hot water and bandages while Isaac explained the situation in hushed tones. "You poor dear," Martha said, leading Kate to a bedroom upstairs. "Let's get you out of that dress and into something comfortable. Then we'll see to those feet." Kate was overwhelmed by the kindness of these strangers. Within an hour, she was bathed, her feet cleaned and bandaged, and dressed in a borrowed nightgown and robe. Martha had brought her a tray of hot stew and fresh bread, which Kate devoured, realizing she hadn't eaten since breakfast. "Thank you," Kate said sincerely as Martha checked her bandages one last time. "I don't know what I would have done if Isaac hadn't found me." Martha patted her hand. "That boy has a good heart. Always has, ever since Thomas hired him 3 years ago. He's the best wrangler we've got, and not just with horses. He seems to understand when any creature is in trouble." "He said I could stay the night," Kate ventured. "You can stay as long as you need to," Martha assured her. "Thomas and I have no children of our own, and this big house gets lonely sometimes. Now get some rest. We can talk more in the morning." As Kate settled into the soft bed, she heard the distant sounds of men's voices from downstairs, probably Isaac reporting to Mr. Reynolds. She wondered what would happen tomorrow. Her family would be looking for her, as would Edgar Thornton. She had no money, no possessions beyond the ruined wedding dress. But for tonight, at least, she was safe. Morning came with the sounds of a working ranch rooster's crowing, horses nickering, men calling to each other as they began their day's work. Kate dressed in clothes Martha had provided. A simple blue cotton dress that was slightly too large but infinitely more practical than a wedding gown. Her feet were still tender, but Martha had given her a pair of worn but comfortable boots that fit well enough once she added an extra pair of socks. After a hearty breakfast with the Reynoldses, during which Thomas Reynolds, a burly man with a booming laugh, assured her she was welcome to stay, Kate found herself drawn to the corral where several hands were working with horses. She spotted Isaac immediately, his tall frame easily recognizable as he patiently guided a young bay through basic commands. "Good morning," she called, approaching the fence. "Your Mrs. Reynolds is an angel," Isaac smiled, tipping his hat. "That she is. How are those feet today?" "Better, thank you." Kate leaned against the fence post, watching him work. "Mr. Reynolds says I can stay for a while until I figure out what to do next." "He's a good man," Isaac replied, leading the bay to the fence. "Do you want to meet Copper?" "He's just learning his manners, but he's gentle." Kate reached out, allowing the young horse to sniff her hand before stroking his velvety nose. "He's beautiful. Reminds me of my mare back home, Starlight. I miss her." "Why don't you go home?" Isaac asked, his voice gentle but direct. "Your family must be worried." Kate sighed, her hand dropping from Copper's nose. "My father arranged the marriage to Edgar Thornton to save our ranch. We've been struggling since my mother died 3 years ago. The drought hit us hard and we lost nearly half our cattle. Edgar offered to pay off our debts in exchange for my hand." She swallowed hard. "If I go back now, I'll either have to marry him or watch my father lose everything he's worked for." Isaac was silent for a moment, his blue eyes studying her face. That's a heavy burden for someone so young. I'm 20, Kate said defensively. Old enough to make my own choices. I didn't mean it as an insult, Isaac clarified. I'm only 23 myself. I just meant it's not fair that you have to choose between your happiness and your family's welfare. Something in his understanding tone broke through Kate's defenses. What would you do? If you were me, Isaac removed his hat, running a hand through his dark hair. I can't answer that, but I can tell you that running away isn't the same as finding your way forward. Sometimes you have to face the hard things head-on to find the right path. His words stayed with Kate throughout the day as she helped Martha with household chores, grateful to keep busy and make herself useful. In the afternoon, she ventured to the stable where Isaac was mending tack. She watched him work for a moment, admiring the deft movements of his hands. I want to send a letter to my father, she announced. To let him know I'm safe at least, but I don't want him to know where I am yet. Isaac nodded, setting aside the bridle he was repairing. That's a start. I'm riding into town tomorrow for supplies. I can post it for you. Thank you. Kate hesitated, then added, Would you teach me more about ranching? The practical parts my father never showed me. If I'm going to find a way forward, I need to know how to be truly useful. Isaac's smile was slow and genuine. I'd be honored, Miss Clarke. Kate, she corrected him. If we're going to be working together, you should call me Kate. The days stretched into weeks as Kate found her place at R Ranch. True to his word, Isaac taught her everything from mending fences to tracking cattle, often riding out together at dawn and returning as the sun set. Martha had given Kate a small notebook, and she filled it with observations and sketches the proper way to coil rope, the anatomy of a horse's hoof, the different brands of neighboring ranches. Her father's reply to her letter had been brief but relieved. He wouldn't force her to marry Edgar, he wrote, but begged her to come home soon. The banker had withdrawn his offer after being humiliated at the altar, and the ranch was now in greater peril than ever. Kate's heart ached for her father, but she wasn't ready to return, not yet, not without a solution. One evening in late June, about a month after her arrival, Kate and Isaac sat on the porch after dinner. The air was warm, filled with the chirping of crickets and the distant lowing of cattle. They had spent the day moving a herd to fresh pasture, and Kate was tired but satisfied with her growing skills. You're a natural, Isaac said, leaning back in his chair. Most city folk take months to learn what you've picked up in weeks, Kate laughed. I'm hardly city folk. I just never had the chance to do the real work before. My father was old-fashioned that way, thought a woman's place was in the house. And what do you think? Isaac asked, his eyes reflecting the golden sunset. I think a woman's place is wherever she chooses to be, Kate replied firmly. In the house, in the fields, or both? Isaac smiled, that dimple appearing in his cheek. I think so too. My mother ran our farm in Ohio after my father died, taught me everything I know about hard work and perseverance. You never mentioned your family before, Kate said, surprised. Not much to tell. They're all gone now, mother, father, younger sister. Fever took them 5 years ago while I was away working on a cattle drive. His voice was matter-of-fact, but Kate could hear the pain underneath. Impulsively, she reached out and covered his hand with hers. I'm sorry, Isaac. He turned his hand to hold hers, the calluses on his palm rough against her skin. It's why I understand about wanting to help your family, Kate. When you love people, you want to do right by them, no matter the cost to yourself. Their eyes met, and something shifted between them, an acknowledgement of shared understanding, of mutual respect that had grown into something deeper. Kate felt her heart quicken as Isaac's gaze dropped to her lips. The moment was broken by the sound of approaching riders. Isaac released her hand and stood, peering into the gathering dusk. Visitors this late? Kate asked, also rising. Not expected ones, Isaac replied, his hand moving instinctively to the gun at his hip. Stay here. But as the riders came into view, Kate gasped. That's my father. And our foreman, Joe? She hurried down the porch steps, forgetting her earlier desire to remain hidden. Her father, Daniel Clarke, spotted her immediately and dismounted with surprising agility for a man in his 50s. His face, more lined than she remembered, broke into a mixture of relief and concern. "Katherine, thank God you're safe." He enveloped her in a tight embrace that smelled of dust and horses and home. "When we got your letter, I had to see for myself that you were all right. How did you find me?" Kate asked, pulling back to look at him. "Wasn't hard," Joe, the grizzled foreman, said gruffly. "Letter was postmarked from Willow Creek. Ain't but 3 ranches in this part of the county that might take in a stray girl. We tried the R first." Thomas Reynolds had come out to greet the visitors, and after introductions were made, he invited them all inside. Martha immediately set about preparing coffee and bringing out leftover pie, while Daniel explained the situation to everyone gathered in the Reynolds' comfortable parlor. "The bank's giving us until the end of the month," he said, looking haggard. "If we can't pay at least half the debt by then, they'll take everything." Kate's stomach twisted with guilt. "This is my fault. If I had married Edgar—" "No," her father interrupted firmly. "I was wrong to try to solve our problems by selling my daughter's future. Your mother would have been ashamed of me." He turned to the Reynoldses. "I can't thank you enough for taking care of her." "She's been a blessing," Martha assured him. "Works harder than most of the men." Isaac, who had been standing quietly by the fireplace, spoke up. "Mr. Clarke, I've been teaching Kate about some of the newer ranching methods. There might be ways to increase your yield without selling out." Daniel looked skeptical. "We've been ranching that land for 20 years, son. Don't know what new tricks could save us now." "With respect, sir, sometimes fresh eyes see what familiar ones miss," Isaac replied. "I spent 2 years working a ranch in Colorado that faced similar challenges." As the men began discussing possibilities, selective breeding, rotating pastures, capturing the wild mustangs that roamed the region to sell as trained stock, Kate felt a surge of hope. Isaac spoke with knowledge and confidence, and even Joe, who was usually resistant to new ideas, was nodding thoughtfully. Later that night, after her father and Joe had been settled in guest rooms, Kate found Isaac in the barn doing a final check on the horses. "Thank you," she said simply. Isaac closed the stall door and turned to face her. "For what?" "For offering to help my father, for teaching me, for—" She gestured vaguely. "Everything?" Isaac took a step closer. "Kate, I need to tell you something." His voice was serious. "Mr. Reynolds is sending me to your family's ranch for a month to help implement those changes we discussed." "You're leaving?" Kate felt a sudden hollowness in her chest. "I'm asking you to come with me," Isaac replied. "Go home, help save your family's ranch. Show your father what you've learned." "And then what?" Kate asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Isaac reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "And then, if you'll have me, I'd like to court you properly, with your father's permission." The hollowness in Kate's chest was replaced by a warmth that spread throughout her body. "I'd like that very much, Isaac Vance." His smile was radiant in the dim lantern light of the barn. Slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished, he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was gentle, almost reverent, but it sent sparks through Kate's veins. When they separated, both were breathing a little faster. "I've wanted to do that since the day I carried you across that field," Isaac admitted, his forehead resting against hers. Kate laughed softly. "I've wanted you to since that same day." 2 days later, Kate returned to her family's ranch, the Clarke Cattle Company, riding beside Isaac, her father, and Joe. The familiar landscape of rolling hills and scattered oak trees filled her with a bittersweet nostalgia. The ranch house, smaller than the Reynoldses but solidly built by her grandfather, looked weathered but welcoming. As Kate dismounted in the yard, she was greeted enthusiastically by her mare, Starlight, who had apparently broken out of the corral to welcome her mistress home. Kate laughed, burying her face in the horse's mane while Isaac watched with an appreciative smile. "She missed you," he observed. "The feeling is mutual," Kate replied, stroking the mare's sleek neck. The next month was a flurry of activity as Isaac and Kate worked alongside Daniel and the remaining ranch hands to implement the changes they had discussed. They repaired fences, reorganized the breeding program to focus on hardier stock, and Kate introduced more efficient methods for tracking the herd's health. Isaac led expeditions to capture wild mustangs, which Kate then helped to gentle using techniques she had learned at RRR. In the evenings, Isaac would join the Clarks for dinner, and afterward he and Kate would often sit on the porch, talking late into the night. He told her about his dreams of someday having his own small ranch, while she shared stories of her mother and her childhood on the prairie. As the deadline with the bank approached, they organized an auction of newly trained horses and select cattle. The community turned out in force partly out of curiosity about the girl who had run from her wedding, but mostly because the Clarks were respected longtime residents. By the end of the day, they had raised enough money to pay half the debt and negotiate new terms for the remainder. That night, there was a celebration at the Clarke Ranch. Neighbors brought food and music, and for the first time in years, laughter filled the old house. Kate watched as her father talked animatedly with other ranchers, looking younger than he had in months. "You did this," Isaac said, appearing at her side with 2 cups of punch. "You saved your family's ranch." "We did it together," Kate corrected him, accepting the cup. "I couldn't have done it without you." Isaac glanced around to ensure they weren't being observed, then quickly kissed her cheek. "I've been talking with your father." Kate's heart skipped. "About what?" "About staying on here as a partner in the ranch. He's offered me a small stake in exchange for my continued help." Isaac's eyes were bright with excitement. He said he's never seen the place run so efficiently, and he's getting too old to manage everything alone. "And what did you say?" Kate asked, barely daring to hope. "I said I'd only stay under one condition." Isaac set down his cup and took her hands in his. "That I could court his daughter with the intention of making her my wife once we've known each other a proper amount of time." Joy bubbled up in Kate's chest. "And what did he say to that?" "He said he reckoned you could do a lot worse than a hard-working cowboy who knows his way around a ranch." Isaac's smile was tentative. "What do you say, Kate? Will you let me court you? Will you consider a future with me?" Instead of answering with words, Kate stood on tiptoe and kissed him, not caring who might see. When they parted, both breathless and smiling, she finally whispered, "Yes, Isaac, yes to all of it." 2 years later, Katherine Clarke became Katherine Vance in a simple ceremony held in the meadow where they had first met. Unlike her previous almost wedding, this one filled her with joy rather than dread. She wore a practical but beautiful dress of pale blue, with wildflowers in her hair instead of an elaborate veil. Isaac waited for her beneath an arch of twisted branches, looking handsome and slightly nervous in his best shirt and vest. When he saw her approaching, his face lit up with such love that Kate felt tears of happiness spring to her eyes. Their vows were straightforward but heartfelt, promises to support each other through the hardships of frontier life, to build their future together day by day, to love each other through all seasons. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Isaac surprised Kate by sweeping her into his arms and carrying her across the field to where their horses waited, just as he had done the day they met. "You don't have to carry me," Kate laughed, her arms around his neck. "My feet aren't tired today." "I know," Isaac replied, smiling down at her, "but I wanted to remind you of how our story began." As they rode back to the ranch now, a thriving operation thanks to their combined efforts, Kate reflected on how differently her life had turned out from what she had expected. If she had not fled her wedding to Edgar, if Isaac had not found her stumbling across that field, if she had not had the courage to forge her own path. "What are you thinking about, Mrs. Vance?" Isaac asked, riding beside her. The new name sent a thrill through Kate. "I'm thinking about how sometimes the worst day of your life can lead to the best decision you ever made." Isaac reached across the space between their horses to take her hand. "I think about that too. Every day I thank God that I decided to ride the east boundary that evening." The ranch came into view, where friends and family waited to celebrate their marriage. Kate squeezed Isaac's hand, feeling the matching gold band on his finger press against hers. "Ready for our new beginning?" she asked. Isaac's smile was as bright as the prairie sun above them. "With you by my side, I'm ready for anything." 5 years later, Kate stood on the porch of their home, a new house built on Clarke land, where Isaac was now a full partner in the renamed Clarke and Vance Cattle Company. Their 3-year-old son Thomas, named after the man who had given them shelter when they needed it most, played in the yard with his baby sister Martha. Isaac came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. "Beautiful evening," he murmured. "It is," Kate agreed, leaning back against his solid chest. "The new foals are doing well, and your latest Mustang seems to be accepting the saddle." "He'll be ready for the Army contract next month," Isaac confirmed. "Your father says this could be our most profitable year yet." They had expanded their operations to include breeding and training horses for the cavalry, using the Mustang herds that roamed their expanded property. Daniel Clarke, while officially retired, still offered his wisdom and experience, though he was content to let the younger generation lead the ranch into the future. "You ever think about that day?" Kate asked, watching their son attempt to lasso a fence post the way his father had taught him. "When you found me on the prairie," Isaac chuckled, the sound rumbling against her back. "Only every time I look at you and wonder how I got so lucky." Kate turned in his arms to face him. Though the years of hard work had added new lines to his face, his blue eyes were as bright and kind as ever. "I used to think running away from my wedding was an act of cowardice. Now I see it was the bravest thing I ever did." "Second bravest," Isaac corrected, kissing her forehead. "The bravest was deciding to go back home and face your problems head-on instead of running away from them." Kate smiled, thinking of the journey they had taken together, the struggles of those early years, the triumph of saving the ranch, the joy of building their family. "I suppose we've both been brave in our own ways. And we've been lucky," Isaac added. "Lucky to have found each other on that vast prairie among all the possibilities." As the sun set over the land that had challenged them, tested them, and ultimately rewarded their perseverance, Kate knew that Isaac was right. They had been lucky. But they had also created their own luck through hard work, courage, and love. Their children called to them from the yard, eager to show off a new trick with the lasso, and Kate and Isaac walked hand in hand to join them, continuing the story that had begun on that fateful day when a bride with tired feet had stumbled, and a cowboy had carried her across the field toward a future neither could have imagined.